Oh boy, the timeline. Here we go again. Hey guys, HMK here once again with a new video regarding the timeline. Yes, the Breath of the Wild timeline placement will always be an enigma until we finally get the final word from Nintendo, if we're ever gonna get it. Anyways, in the new Zelda DLC Pack 1, the Master Trials, we do have some sort of inclinator that a lot of people have been using to point in the direction of an indisputable child timeline placement. Now, I've been a huge advocate for the child timeline placement from the beginning. You know, it's not something I'm flip-flopping on, and I feel that we do have a good amount of evidence to support the fact that Breath of the Wild does take place 10,000 years, more than 10,000 years, after Four Swords Adventures in the child timeline of the Legend of Zelda timeline. Now, a lot of you guys want my take on this new addition to the overall game of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild in the form of the new DLC armor pieces. Now, it's not the pieces themselves, but the way that they're hidden and the way that you find out where the pieces are in the overworld of Hyrule. And it attributes to one notorious bandit thief known as Misko. We already know about this guy a little bit. We've never seen him or anything, but there's been a side quest concerning Misko and his great stash or whatever. And it turns out this guy stole some interesting items from the Hyrule Castle and hid them around the Hyrule Field. When you get the DLC, new side quest missions show up and they point you towards the Outpost Ruins where you're supposed to find a journal of Misko, and then that'll give you hints on where you can find these items, which include the Tingle set, the Phantom set, the Midna's Mask, and Majora's Mask. Now, the big bold thing that a lot of people are using as a pointer towards the child timeline is that in the journal where you're reading a hint on where to find Midna's helmet, aka the Fused Shadow, it talks about the events of Twilight Princess directly, with Midna being the Twilight Princess and her legends being told alongside the hero of Twilight. And another point is that most of these items, the Tingle set, the Majora's Mask, and the Fused Shadow, aka Midna's helmet, are all key elements and items that were introduced specifically in the child timeline. Now, trust me, I would love to take this as rock solid evidence and finally put to end the discussion that is the child timeline placement or the overall placement of Breath of the Wild where it could be in the Zelda timeline, but we do have to look at things that go against this, and that includes the Phantom armor set. Phantoms have been exclusive to the adult timeline, to Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks. And then up comes the argument that DLC in this form may not be canon in regards to the overall Zelda chronology and its relation to Breath of the Wild. I've seen people drive this argument home with the amiibo sets. But to counter that counter, legitimate lore has been expanded in video games before through DLC, so it's not something that's out of the question or hasn't been done before. And the fact that outside these items, the Master Trials have offered some pieces of lore and expansion to story to Breath of the Wild through the Trial of the Sword. And if you complete the Trial of the Sword, you know what I'm talking about. Fine. And another point on the more speculative side, it has been more than 10,000 years since the last battle with Ganon in terms of Breath of the Wild. Who's to say that phantoms could not arise in the child timeline given that sheer amount of time between the games? So with all that being said, the Champion's Ballad also seeks to add new lore that I want to suppose is legitimate to Breath of the Wild come winter. So does Misko's references to the hero of Twilight and Midna prove that Breath of the Wild once and for all does take place in the child timeline, that the events of Twilight Princess is alive and well within the annals of Breath of the Wild's history? I believe so, but then again, I want to know what you guys think. Leave your comments, all your theories, and all that good jazz in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video and enjoy much more of my content, please be sure to like, favorite, share, and most importantly, subscribe to HMK for more. So until the next Zelda video, I've been HMK, and I'll check you guys later.